Ladies and gentlemen, today's story is not merely a sharing about spirituality, nor is it a sermon. It is a journey into the greatest questions of life. The questions that everyone will eventually face, sooner or later. One day, in a quiet land at the foot of a mountain, amid thin mist and distant bell chimes that seemed to echo from another life, I was asked a question that changed the way I view life. Our guiding master suddenly turned to me and asked, "Have you ever wondered who I am, where I come from, and where will I go after death?" I paused slightly. Although I had followed the master for a long time, I had never heard him ask such a direct question. I replied softly, "Yes, I have." He looked even deeper. "Have you ever asked yourself whether we live only once? Is death truly the end? Or is it merely a door to a journey that few dare to step into with awakened eyes?" The question made me swallow hard. "Yes, I have," I whispered. He nodded slowly. His voice was deep and gentle, like a wind carrying memories of many lifetimes. "Then do you know where the future of Buddhism is heading?" I lowered my head. "No, I do not know," I said. He asked again, "Can you distinguish between the sutras truly spoken by the Buddha and those constructed by the eras?" I sighed. "No, I don't know either." His gaze at that moment seemed to contain the entire universe. "Do you know why the greatest minds of the West, philosophers, scientists, neurologists, quietly admire and respect Buddhism?" I remained silent. "No, I do not know," I admitted. He smiled. His eyes seemed to look through time, beyond all forms, and he spoke just two words: scientific Buddhism, not faith-based Buddhism, not ritualistic Buddhism, but Buddhism as science. He did not explain further. He left only one sentence: follow the Buddha's teachings faithfully, and to know all of this, first, you must know who you are. And that was the karmic connection that led us to make this video. For those who are destined to seek the truth behind death, past life memories, translucent light, and the mystery of rebirth. Things that, if seen only through physical eyes, would always appear as legend. Yet when science steps into the realm of consciousness, everything suddenly becomes clearer than ever. Death is not the end. This journey began with a special dialogue between His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and a group of leading neuroscientists from Russia. When people hear science, many immediately think of machines, formulas, and numbers. But in that conversation, science faced something beyond all familiar models. Tukdam, the post-mortem meditative state of Tibetan practitioners. The meeting was initiated by the Septib Foundation, represented by Ms. Natalia Inozemtseviva. She recalled the origin of the conference series, starting in 2017 in Delhi, under the theme Fundamental Knowledge of Mind and Matter. By 2018, in Dharamsala, they expanded the research scope, bringing science into the world of subtle consciousness, the realm Buddhism has spoken of for thousands of years, yet Western science had barely touched. From these dialogues, Russian scientists embarked on a bold project study in Tukdam, a phenomenon which, according to Vajrayana Buddhism, only occurs in practitioners who have reached a profound meditative state, merging with the fundamental light of consciousness. What was extraordinary? When doctors measured, the person was clinically dead. The heart stopped beating. The brain showed no activity, yet the body did not decompose. No rigidity, no coldness, no odor. The flesh remained soft, as if the person were asleep. According to science, this should be impossible. Yet it happened not just once, but many times. When science touches what Buddhism has said for 2,500 years, Professor Sviatoslav Medvedev, one of Russia, as a leading neuroscientist and director of the Human Brain Institute, led this research. He and his team set up field laboratories at major Tibetan centers in Belarus. They measured brain waves, heart rate, body temperature, and biological markers of 104 meditators in deep meditation. But the most crucial observation came from a special case at Gutta Monastery. A monk entered Tukdam 37 days after passing away, and during that entire period, no rigidity occurred, No temperature drop, no decomposition, no odor, no change in skin tone. A forensic doctor was invited to verify. All confirmed. This was not death, as science had known. Scientists called this phenomenon post-mortem biological anomaly. Buddhism calls it resting in the primordial luminous state, where the subtlest consciousness still resides in the body, not yet departed. The practitioner is in the bardo, the intermediate state between death and rebirth, and if observed correctly, this reveals a greater truth beyond life and death. Consciousness is not entirely dependent on the brain. Brain death does not mean the mind ceases. Physical death is not the end, but a transition. Just as the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago, mind precedes. Mind governs, mind creates all phenomena. When science turns to finding the mind, from these findings, His Holiness, the Dalai Lama emphasized an essential point. Science can only advance further if it dares to step into the subjective world, where a person can observe their own mind. He did not say this to mystify spirituality, but to remind us that there are things machines cannot measure, but humans can directly experience through meditation, stillness, and facing the inner self. Science views the mind as a product of the brain. Buddhism views the brain as a tool the mind uses in one lifetime, and when the body dies, T-tool stops, but the mind does not. That is why phenomena like Tukdam exist, not as legends, but as a real state of consciousness. Simply, that science lacks the means to measure it. The silence of the mind is the greatest gate. There's a passage His Holiness said that left many scientists speechless. The mind is not to be believed. The mind is to be seen through stillness. This sounds simple, but it contains the complete map of the spiritual journey. Because our lives are swept away by anxiety, responsibility, hurt expectations, fear. Endless busyness meanwhile. The door to the true nature of ourselves lies entirely in the opposite. Silence, not external silence, but the silence of the mind. When the mind is calm, everything becomes clear. When the mind is disturbed, even peaceful circumstances feel chaotic. This is why the Buddha taught about the primordial luminous state, the light within every person, deep within the body, beneath each breath. There is a region of light that no one teaches you except the Buddha. No machine has ever measured it, yet it is the foundation of thoughts, memories, karma, samsara, rebirth. And if you do not touch that light, you will pass through this life unconsciously. But if you touch it even once, you will understand this saying. Death cannot end that which never began. Where is our journey heading? In the 21st century, science is approaching spirituality closer than ever, not in a vague way, but with data, experiments, and evidence. Yet the real question lies within each of us. Do I dare face the question, who am I? Do I dare look deeply at death, not to fear, but to understand? Do I dare believe that my mind is wider than pain, wider than memory, wider than this life itself? And most importantly, do I dare return to myself? Not by asceticism, not by escaping the world, but by returning with awareness in ordinary life. Because the future of Buddhism does not lie in rituals or forms, but in the human ability to use the Buddha's wisdom to understand their own mind and live in accordance with it. The ultimate truth of science dares to touch the depths of consciousness, and humanity dares to return to itself. We will step into a new era, a place where death is understood correctly, where consciousness is recognized as a deep dimension, where past life memories are no longer seen as fantasy, where Tukdam is not legend, but observable phenomena, where science and spirituality no longer oppose, but walk hand in hand, and most importantly, where each person begins to live correctly, live brightly, live truly, live freely from this very moment. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you find these insights about consciousness, death, past life, memories, and inner light useful, please click subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the upcoming videos. Share this video with your friends and family, so more people can access the light and wisdom within themselves. Remember, every view, every presence of yours is a karmic connection for us to explore the true nature of consciousness together. Thank you very much.